almost in all of your novels, like My Name is Red, or Woman with Red Hair, and this one. You always think about what is between the East and West.
Yes, but it's East and West. Yes, I agree. But East and West are also names for tradition and modernity, are self-identity and joining the huge cultural movement of globalization, where everyone wears neckties, everyone does the same thing, sleeps at the same time, eats at similar things. While there's also resistance to it. You may call this East-West. In the end, I don't like East-West as a war and uprising. I like to write about cultural changes. For example, I want to write about the continuation of my autobiographical Istanbul book. In the second volume, I want to write the whole Asian world used to sleep, and still some of it are, on the floor or eat on the floor. But now my part of the world, 90% is eating on the table and sleeping on, not floor, on high-rise beds. I am also interested in these subjects because they are important subjects.
Yeah, and I remember the Syrian poet, Adonis. So he used to say that there's not only the West and the East, but we should go to the smaller worlds. Yes. Like in the West, there's the East. In the East, there's the West. I mean, there's not just the two parts of the world. Yeah.
Yes, and I have plans for writing about the immigrants of Istanbul. There are Afghan immigrants, there are Arab immigrants who doesn't even speak Turkish, but doing the worst jobs in the streets of Istanbul. So I am planning to write something about them. My tentacles are open to everything that is happening in my town, which means it's already happening in the world too, in Istanbul.
Do you think that actually makes you a quite unique writer, like in the world? When I think about that, in China, I see we have great writers, of course, but I don't see many of them always compare, or this East-West or the past, like the tradition. And
yes, maybe I don't know. Maybe
other nations also.
But don't forget that this is partly due to the Turkey's place in the geographical map. Turkey is partly on Asia, partly on Europe. And I can feel at home in both worlds.
One says that, can you tell us what is the most important quality of a writer?
Of a writer? Persistence, eye for beauty, attention to detail, persistence, the capacity to notice beautiful, happy, dramatical details and put them in the right place. The talent for dramatization, but really persistence, continuing on and on, like a train that never stops. This is the most important thing.
And the motivation is?
Motivation is you like what you're doing. You get a feedback, someone writes it in the end, I wrote for 6 years without getting it published. My motivation did not fade away, and I realized it will never fade away. But after that, there was always readers and success. But at the beginning, I never had any motivations, but I continued.
So the other one asked, can you also recommend books that you like, so except your own novels, to the audience?
Of course, the greatest novel ever, I always say, that is Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. Tolstoy is a great writer. Then comes for me, of course, Dostoevsky, Marcel Proust, Thomas Mann. These are my great writers. Borges and Calvino are different writers, but they also taught me about fiction. I'll sometimes say that actually I'm writing for 47 years. All my life is dedicated to be equally influenced by Tolstoy and Borges. Two entirely different writers, and set my stories in Istanbul. This is a sort of a summary of my life.
So how about books in the recent years?
Oh, okay, new books. I've read, everyone is reading Sally Rooney. I also liked her books. I always interested in Zadie Smith. These young writers, compared to me, they're young. I follow. But then I also read books about what I write about. For example, not now, I'm writing a book called Card Players. Then I'm reading books about history of history of playing cards that I read about that. So I also, as I get older, read a lot for what I'm going to read about, or I am writing essays about some painters. Here I am in New York. I go to Metropolitan, and I look at a Panini picture, and I write about that. I have also projects like that. So many projects. I'm also teaching here. I'm delivering a class called Political Novel, in which we read Melville's Benito Cereno, Dostoevsky's The Possessed. We read Calvino's story, The Watcher, Turgenev's Fathers and Sons, Virginia Woolf's Orlando, and my book Snow. Students we read all this and discuss in my class at Columbia.